Pilots, thanks for tuning in to Motion RC. This is your pilot Ryan. We have the 1600mm P-38 from FlightlineRC outfitted with the Strut upgrade kit. Hit the website, product page, and then the upgrade tab, and you can find the struts as well as some gyros, the speed kits, and some other things. Very easy to do. We're going to jump right in with some close-ups, show you how to get it done. The mains are very easy. The nose gear takes a little more doing, but I'll show you how to get it done, and there are more than one way to do it. So you can pick your poison on that one. All right, guys, here we go.
Okay, pilot, so the first thing you're going to do is, with the gear down, remove the 4 retract plate screws, and there you see the metal ring that is a threaded sleeve where there's a grub screw. The way I did it was to take one grub screw out completely and then the other side just loosen. Doesn't take much. So now easily the old strut comes out. You can see that there's a flat spot on both sides of the strut pin, and you can see through that ring down to the flat. I've got it where I like it, so now I'm going to cinch it down with the one that I left loose. Sorry about the shot. It's hard to work in front of yourself here. And then now you can see the flat spot through the sleeve. That's what I want to see. And now the strut's not going to move because I have it secure on the back side. I had previously already put Loctite on the loose screw. I did take it out, put on some Loctite. Here you can see the Loctite is on the grub screw, and I'm going to spin it in all the way, and the job is done. The mains are a lot easier to do than the nose gear, although the nose gear is definitely doable and worth the trouble for sure. Untwist the wires, place it back in the pocket, screw in 4 screws, and that one's done. Note the position of the strut. The strut is aligned inboard, where the tire is sitting in the center of the bay. The tires come on the suspension struts. The strut is as inboard as possible. The nose gear, same thing. 4 screws gets the retract unit loose. The next thing you'll have to do is get the clevis off of the tiller arm. A little hard to see. We'll readjust here. And you do have a set screw that you can undo on the control rod itself, but I decided to leave mine set. That way I know my steering doesn't change. So with a couple screwdrivers, I pop loose the clevis on the tiller arm. So now we're going to take the retract casing apart. We have to get the old strut out and get at the trunnion so we can remove the circlip from the back of the trunnion and place the new one on. You'll have 3 silver screws and then 2 are black. The next thing is to carefully split the casing apart. Hopefully all the integral parts will stay in one half. It doesn't always work that way, but that's the next thing, and do it as delicate as you can. Just kind of hold the strut in one half. Carefully work it apart. And if things work perfectly for you, this is what you'll have. You'll be able to remove one half like this. Sometimes the motor and little board with the micro switch on it, the little circuit board stays in here. Sometimes the trunnion and the spindle will stay in here. So set this off to the side. Now you see you have the trunnion and everything else left.
This is probably the trickier part. Kind of hold the motor, and you can see the spindle will move, but you see where the spindle sits. There's a piece here with no threads, and that sits in a little cradle here. And then the tab, you can see the bevel of the spindle here that travels along the jack screw. There's a little bit of a tab on the bottom of that, which comes in contact with the micro switch, which tells the retract, you know, which way to go and things like that. So if it does blow apart when you take out the trunnion, you can see at least what it looked like beforehand. There you go. So I'm trying to do this and stay out of the camera. Inevitably something will come out as I do this. Well, I lucked out. So you remove the trunnion from the retract unit and carefully set it aside. You can see we're doing this while we're still plugged into the plane. We don't have to remove the whole unit to do this, which is cool. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back together, just because I don't want all the innards falling out. So while I work on the trunnion and the circlip, I'm going to go ahead and screw back in the one black screw just for now. Doesn't have to be tight. I just don't want things falling apart. Alright, cool. Now I don't have to worry about this at all. So now that you've split it apart, you have the free spinning trunnion on the stock strut. And what you have to do is get this circlip off of the base of the strut. So here we have the old strut and trunnion, and I've been working on trying to get a start on this circlip to come off the recessed part of the strut, and I've got it where it's loose. The open end of the circlip was in, I've rolled it around now to be in here, because now I want access to, I've made some room in here where I can get in with a small screwdriver and pry it off the rest of the way, so it doesn't fly across the room. So let me go ahead and do that. And there's the circlip here. And now that we've got the circlip off of this old strut, we can pull the trunnion. And we're going to need that trunnion, but we don't need this at all. So now you can see here's the suspension strut. And it's, you know, same thing. It's got a groove in it. And the trunnion has to go there. The problem is the circlip's not going to fit. You can see the recess, but it's so very tight you're going to be lucky to get it on, and when you do, this won't spin freely, and it needs to. So you can either A, file the back of this in between here to allow room for the circlip to fit. And here's a filed one here. There's a lot more room for that. This works. I filed it down right through there, right through those tabs. And I've got enough room for the circlip to fit and spin freely. Or B, you can loosen this screw here and pull out your strut pin a little bit. And when you do that, you're going to have to loosen this and drop this one too. And we'll see what that looks like. We'll do that right now. And that should make it where you don't have to file at all. So let's try that. So we need to make clearance on the strut pin to allow the circlip to engage this recess and still spin freely on the trunnion. You can file the back of the trunnion, or what's probably even simpler is to just loosen this up, and you can see you have some room here. Right as it is now, it's all the way, these butt together. If I give it just a little bit, make sure I'm on the flat, and I'm going to Loctite this stuff too. If I give it just a little bit, I know I'll get what I need at the top. So here is the circlip. See it against my nail there. Simply try to get it started. I'm making headway. A little bit more. And here's a hint. If it's tough to get that circlip on, you may still be too tight in places. So I am gonna loosen this up. Loosen this up here. And snug it back. I'm gonna give myself plenty of room to work, but I don't want to lose bearing on the flat spot. I'm gonna go ahead and loosen up the steering tiller now. Get myself some more room, and again, snug it up. Now I've got plenty of room there. You can see plenty of room to get this circlip on. It's on, but I'm not happy with it. And you know, you don't have to work right over the plane to do this. You can go to a bench, somewhere nice and rigid where you can get this done. Me, I'm trying to show you. So there, do you hear it click? Perfect. I mean, honestly, you could live with that much slack if you had to, but I'm going to snug it up a little bit. The main goal is that that circlip is on all the way, and this spins freely. Now, that's great. Now what I'm going to do is get this dialed in. And I don't want a lot of slop. So I'm going to tighten it up the best I can. Again, without impeding the rotation here. That's awesome. Good. Now the steering tiller and this piece here can be snugged up as well. I can close this gap. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to take the opportunity to pull this out all the way and get some Loctite going. Just a little bit of Loctite. Don't want too much, and I don't want it touching any plastic. I can use my screwdriver to steal some away. And what's good about all this here is none of this is around any plastic. So that's fine. I don't mind that. There's a little bit of extra. It's not going to hurt you to have any down there at the tiller as well. So now, if you did that like I did, you want to make sure that your steering tiller and the bend here on your strut, all that matches up. And for me, I'm backwards, so I need to go like this, which makes sense. The one that I loosened is the one that's on the flat. There that is. We'll tighten that down, and you can tell you hit the flat because the strut will turn just a little bit. So now that that's all snug, what I'm going to do is the side that I never touched at all, right here, I'm going to go ahead and pull that out and put a bit of Loctite on that little tiny grub screw as well. Just a little bit right there. And screw it in.
So,
Hey,
we got a bunch of goodies here. Got some different kind of, the ones that I think that the guys like.
and do the other side the same way. Why not? Especially the side that goes on the flat. No reason not to. So since this one's tight now and been Loctited, I'll go ahead and get this one. You can see the flat spot in there. That means you got it. And that's cool because I didn't have to file or grind the trunnion. That's not bad at all. Loctite on the grub screw. Snug it up. Give an extra one over here for good measure. And we are good to go. Now we get to put this trunnion back in the case. We put one screw back in here just to hold things together. Go ahead and remove it. I'm holding with my thumb the motor as I carefully wiggle half of this casing off, and it worked out. Here we have a clear half. Now what I want to do is carefully bring my strut over, and I'm going to still hold on to this motor and all right here. Now we know it's gear up right now. Carefully place the trunnion in. Now that we've got the trunnion in place, I'm going to switch hands here. So the motor's good to go now, probably won't fall out. The steering tiller, however, needs to be down on this side because the retract faces this direction and the steering linkage is all over here. So anyway, make sure this is on the correct side. The motor's good, it's in there. Awesome. Now don't let go of anything, and you want to work this back in here. So I'm using everything I got here as far as fingers and thumbs and bellies and all. So making sure everything is in its place, and it is. Put the casing back on, hold it tightly. Check your wiring back here. Make sure nothing's pinched. It's looking good. Check it where it enters as well. It's looking good. Now, I am not letting go of this puppy for sure. I'm going to go ahead and do the two in the middle, which are the black ones right there. And then I can relax a little bit. The hardest part is done. You got the circlip off and the trunnion back in without losing any guts to the unit. Very cool. And while you were at it, you took the opportunity to Loctite things. Awesome. Two screws in the middle, they're black. Silver there, two silver here, and the unit is back together. Now, before you button it up all the way, double check yourself. This is how the unit goes. Steering tiller moves freely and is on the correct side. Very good. Now before we put the unit back in, what we want to do is we want to get this clevis where we can get at it. And I like to put it under tension out here. And we're going to hook up the steering tiller before it ever goes in, like first thing we're doing. So make sure your wire's not twisted, and go ahead and connect this clevis to your steering tiller. It's kind of tricky, but it's easier up here than any other way. Go. Now we just have to get it connected and snipped, so to speak. Clicked. Very nice. Now we can bring up the silicone tubing. Now my wire isn't twisted or anything, and I can simply turn that. Perfect. The little wood guide that guides this short control rod, I removed it earlier because it's a nice thing, but it's in the way if you're going to do this upgrade. Now that the nose gear unit is back installed, I simply just re-glued the wooden guide back into the side of the fuselage after everything was set. Now let's tighten up 4 screws and this job is done. Very cool. And when you're done, the reward is fantastic suspension. Very cool. That concludes the strut upgrade video for the 1600mm P-38. How cool is this? Can't wait to get it out of the field. As you see, it's very easy to do the mains and a little more doing on the nose gear. But if you're up for the challenge, you do get rewarded with some fantastic suspension. And those flying off of rough surfaces might really appreciate that. Again, thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook, Google+. We're doing Twitter now. Wealth of great information and talent with the pilots over at the Hobby Squawk forums. Don't forget to stop by there. And really, thanks a lot for watching. See you out at the field.